Greetings, YouTubers. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but in case you haven't, isn't it ironic that every leftist pet argument and pet project is somehow always linked to national security or the survival of mankind? You have Michelle Hussein Obama's contrived argument that we need the government to fight obesity because all these fat kids can't serve in the military, making it a national security issue. Forgetting that it's not the job of the government to take care of a bunch of fat slobs who play Nintendo all day. It's a parental task. Now school choice. Yes, folks. School choice might threaten the survival of our species because allowing parents to drive a bit further to get their kids to a decent school and avoid a decaying public school is threatening the environment. It's the finding from a new paper published in the journal Environmental Science and Technology. The argument is school choice leads to more driving, which results in more vehicle emissions. The abstract says that eliminating district-wide school choice, i.e. returning to a system with neighborhood schools only, would have significant impacts on transport modes and emissions. And the findings underscore the need to critically evaluate transportation-related environmental and health impacts of currently proposed changes in school policy. So, the public sector can dominate the education arena with your tax dollars, of course, and then if your public school system, like many of them, happens to be a cesspool with bad teachers, you're stuck there just where the government wants you. If the federal government controls education, then they can ram an unconstitutional national curriculum, James Madison is spinning in his grave, down your throat, no questions asked. I think George Mason economist Don Boudreaux adequately responded, saying, quote, "Why stop with education? Perhaps another future study can be done on the environmental impact of supermarket choice. After all, with people free to drive wherever they wish to buy groceries, it's almost certainly the case that too many of us drive hither and yon unnecessarily, wasting our time and fouling the air. I'll bet that your research will show that restricting each American to shopping only at that supermarket nearest to his or her home will reduce vehicular emissions and hence help the environment. Indeed, the possibilities suggested by your research are infinite. No telling how much filth is spit into our environment every day by people needlessly driving to churches, restaurants, shopping malls, gyms, physicians' offices, nightclubs, and even friends' homes when they could easily go to and hence should be forcibly restricted to churches, restaurants, etc., and even to the homes of friends who are located closer to where they live." End quote. We desperately need school choice, and it would be in the interest of every state, and some have taken these measures, to offer a state-level dollar-for-dollar tax credit for donations to private and charter schools. The effects of a run-down public school system can be seen especially when one compares urban school district performance with suburban school performance. It is no surprise that more students drop out of high school in big cities than elsewhere. Now, however, a nationwide study commissioned by the America's Promise Alliance entitled Closing the Graduation Gap shows the magnitude of the gap. The average high school graduation rate in the nation's 50 largest cities was 53% compared with 71% in the suburbs. In Cleveland, for instance, where the gap was largest, only 38% of high school freshmen graduated within 4 years, compared with 80% in the Cleveland suburbs. In Baltimore, which has the nation's second largest gap, 41% of students graduate from city schools compared with 81% in the suburbs. New York also had a large gap, with 54% of freshmen graduating within 4 years from schools in the city compared with 83% from suburban high schools. The Indianapolis public schools had the lowest graduation rate of any large American city in 2005, with only 30% of freshmen graduating on time. Several large western cities, in contrast, had graduation rates that exceeded the national average. The Mesa Unified District in Arizona had the highest graduation rate of any large city, with 77 out of every 100 freshmen there graduating 4 years later. Walter E. Williams writes this about Detroit and the District of Columbia's decaying public school systems. Quote, Detroit's predominantly black public schools are the worst in the nation, and it takes some doing to be worse than Washington, D.C. Only 3% of Detroit's fourth graders scored proficient on the most recent National Assessment of Education Progress test, sometimes called the nation's report card. 28% scored basic and 69% below basic. Below basic is the NAEP category when students are unable to demonstrate even partial mastery of knowledge and skills fundamental for proficient work at their grade level. It's the same story for Detroit's 8th graders. 4% scored proficient, 18% basic, and 77% below basic. The education establishment and politicians tell us that we need to spend more for higher teacher pay and smaller class size. The fact of business is higher teacher salaries and smaller class sizes mean little or nothing in terms of academic achievement. Washington, D.C., for example, spends over $15,000 per student, has class sizes smaller than the nation's average, and with an average annual salary of $61,195, its teachers are the most highly paid in the nation. End quote. Yet D.C.'s public schools are in disarray, and now the coup de grace. The national average for 2009 graduating high schoolers, reported by ACT, American College Testing Officials, is 21.1 on a scale from 1 to 36. Homeschoolers scored a national average of 22.5. Like the SAT, ACT scores are used in the college admissions process to evaluate applicants. Virtually all colleges accept either test. Ed Colby, spokesman for the ACT, told CNSnews.com. Scores are based on the 1.48 million students who graduated in 2009, Colby said. Among those students were 11,535 homeschoolers, he said. That's what liberals don't like. If a kid is homeschooled or attends a Catholic school, she avoids that brainwashing national curriculum that so many statists like George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama want. If you want to send your child to a school that teaches Darwinian evolution, that's fine with me. But if someone wants to send their kid to a school that teaches intelligent design, that's where the leftists have a problem. They want to restrict choice. They want a one-size-fits-all national curriculum, and this screed against school choice, because we'll have excessive vehicle miles traveled, is just another sign that they're desperate and they want your child to be subjected to their curriculum, the one that you'd prefer. So if you're stuck in Indianapolis, in one of Indianapolis's terrible public school systems, they don't want you to be able to drive an extra 20, 25 miles or whatever to get your child into a better suburban school district where they'll have